There are moments in life when silence becomes louder than words, when the pain others caused lingers in your soul, echoing in every quiet moment, in every sleepless night, in every tear shed in secret. You wonder, does God see this? Does He notice the way they wounded your heart and walked away as if nothing happened? Does He care that you were left shattered, questioning your worth, while they continued their life without remorse? Let me assure you, God sees everything. There is not a single tear that falls from your eyes that He does not collect. There is not a cry of anguish He does not hear. The pain that they inflicted upon you, whether through betrayal, abandonment, manipulation, or cruelty, did not vanish into thin air. It reached the throne of God, and He took note. You may feel like your pain was ignored, but heaven is never indifferent to suffering. God is not unjust. He is not a distant observer of your life. He is involved, intentional, and righteous. And while the world may applaud those who have hurt you, while they may seem to prosper in the short term, God is working behind the scenes. His justice is perfect, and He has a way of revealing the truth, not through human confrontation, but through divine signs in their life. You see, God often responds to the cries of the broken-hearted, not by allowing you to see revenge, but by allowing you to witness revelation. He shows you signs, clear, undeniable signs, that expose the pain they caused you by allowing it to come back into their own life. Not to make you prideful, but to give you peace. Not to incite hate, but to bring healing to your heart. God allows their life to become a mirror of your pain, a reflection of what they once dismissed, so they too can feel the weight of what they did. Have you noticed how those who once laughed at your tears now find themselves alone, crying? How those who disrespected you now seek respect and receive none? How those who betrayed your trust now suffer from betrayal themselves? These are not coincidences. These are divine messages. God's signs to you that He did not overlook your pain. He is faithful to defend those who are pure in heart. He is faithful to bring justice in His time, and in His mercy, He allows you to see these signs so you can let go, so you no longer carry the weight of unanswered pain, so you can finally heal, knowing that God is fighting for you and that those who caused your suffering are being called to accountability, not by your hand, but by His. Ask yourself, why are these signs appearing now? Could it be that God wants you to know that you are not alone, that your pain mattered, that He has been walking with you all along? Could it be that these signs are your release, your permission to stop carrying the burden of their actions and start walking in the freedom that comes from knowing God is your defender? Today we will look at these signs, and as we do, remember, this is not about revenge. This is about vindication. This is about seeing that God reveals the pain they caused you, not to shame them before you, but to show you that justice belongs to Him, and He never forgets His children. There's a sacred truth woven into the fabric of the universe. What is done in the dark will one day come to light, and the pain inflicted upon an innocent soul never disappears into nothingness. It echoes, it lives, and it returns. When someone hurts you, when they wound your heart, betray your trust, and leave you bleeding emotionally, there is an unseen realm that takes note. God does not merely observe this suffering, He records it, weighs it, and repays it in ways only He can orchestrate. One of the most profound ways God brings justice is by allowing the life of the one who hurt you to mirror the very pain they caused you. This reflection of your pain is not always immediate. It may not come the next day or even the next year, but it comes. Slowly and with divine precision, their life begins to unravel in the same way yours did when they wronged you. If they made you feel abandoned, isolated, unloved, watch how over time loneliness creeps into their world. The same coldness they once showed you becomes their portion. The same emotional emptiness they forced you to live with becomes the burden they now carry. And they often don't even understand why it's happening, but you do. Have you ever sat in silence, remembering the sleepless nights you endured because of them? The questions that plagued your mind, the mental exhaustion, the emotional weight that crushed your spirit? God saw every moment, and now in His righteousness, He allows them to walk the same valley, to taste the bitterness they served you. It's not about revenge. It's about divine justice. It's about equilibrium. It's about teaching them through experience what they refuse to understand through empathy. Imagine a mirror being held up to their life, and in that mirror, they see their own actions staring back at them, not as the perpetrator, but as the victim. Suddenly, the laughter they had at your expense no longer feels sweet. The games they played with your heart now haunt them in their own relationship. They begin to feel what you once felt, but with no escape, because now it is their reality, not just your memory. This is God's way of awakening the heart. Sometimes, people cannot see the depth of the hurt they caused until they are forced to walk in your shoes. And God, in His mercy and justice, gives them those shoes, not out of hatred, but to open their eyes. Their life becomes a silent testimony of your suffering. Their experiences begin to echo your cries. They walk into storms, not realizing they are storms they once unleashed upon you. And what does this mean for you? It means your pain did not go unnoticed. It means God is revealing to you that He has always been on your side. When you see them struggling, stumbling, facing the very battles they once caused in your life, it is not your place to gloat. It is your sign that God's justice is at work. It is your reminder that you are not forgotten, and neither is your suffering. Look closely and you will see it. Their life begins to reflect your pain, the very same way they made you feel, alone, betrayed, unloved, disrespected, becomes the very ground they now walk upon. And in this reflection, God speaks to you. He whispers, "I am your defender. I saw your tears. Now see my justice." There is a heavy sorrow that grips the heart when someone you love, someone you trusted, begins to treat you like you're disposable, as if your presence, your loyalty, your kindness held no value. They took your efforts for granted. They saw your love as weakness. They believed you would always be there, no matter how they treated you. And when they finally pushed you away, they didn't even look back. The sting of being unappreciated, of being treated like an option while you gave them your all, leaves wounds that are not visible but cut deep into your soul. But the story doesn't end with your pain, because God is not blind to such injustice. He sees the way they devalued your presence. He watched how they dismissed your worth, used your heart, and assumed you would stay while they gave you the bare minimum or nothing at all. And in His divine justice, God begins to take action, not with loud thunder or immediate consequences, but in quiet, unmistakable ways. One of the clearest signs of His justice is this: they begin to lose the people they took for granted, just as they lost you. When someone misuses the gift of a loyal heart, God removes that gift. He allows the weight of loss to visit them, to sit heavy upon their shoulders, to open their eyes to what they once had and never valued. And this loss doesn't just happen once, it becomes a pattern in their life. One by one, the people who once stood by them, friends, family, partners, begin to walk away. Where they once had support, they now have silence. Where they once had admiration, they now face disappointment. This is not by accident. This is God's design, showing them the pain of abandonment, the sorrow of being disregarded, the weight of loneliness that comes when others grow tired of being mistreated. You were not the only one they took for granted, but perhaps you were the one who loved them most. And now, God is allowing them to feel the void that they themselves created. They start to realize, slowly and painfully, that relationships are fragile, that love is not something to be played with, that people will not stay where they are undervalued. The same way they made you feel replaceable, they now feel replaced. The attention they craved from others fades. The friendships they neglected dissolve. The admiration they once enjoyed turns into criticism and distance. God is revealing your pain through these losses, letting them experience the same emptiness they once forced you to endure. And here's what's powerful. They may not even fully understand why people are leaving. Confusion sets in. They blame others, circumstances, anything but themselves. But deep inside, a voice begins to whisper, a divine voice reminding them of how they treated you. God uses their loneliness to bring reflection, to show them the value of what they once had in you and the reality of what happens when hearts are taken for granted. This is not about punishment. It is about revelation. God is revealing truth through loss. He's peeling back the layers of their pride, exposing them to the consequences of their actions, not out of hatred, but in divine justice. Every person who leaves them now becomes a mirror of your departure, a reminder that they once had someone irreplaceable and treated them like they didn't matter. So if you've ever wondered whether your absence affected them, it did. And as others walk away, just as you did, God is showing them what they refused to see before, that you were a blessing, not a burden. And now they are left to carry the burden of regret, with no one else to blame. There is a certain heaviness that no one can see, a weight that presses upon the soul, not from physical burdens but from guilt. When someone wrongs you deeply, when they betray your trust, trample your love, and walk away from your pain without remorse, it may seem like they feel nothing. On the outside, they smile, they laugh, they carry on as if your suffering was insignificant. You watch them from a distance, carrying the wounds they inflicted, while they appear untouched, unbothered. Buyer Whitewurst thinks that, on the surface, those unfelt emotions are present, while they appear untouched, unbothered. But what you cannot see is that God works in silence, and His justice begins in the heart. Guilt is not always loud. It does not always show itself in tears or apologies, but it festers in the mind like a poison, haunting the one who caused harm. God has a way of turning the heart of the offender against themselves, not by force, but by truth. The truth of what they did, the realization of the pain they caused, begins to creep into their thoughts. It shows up in quiet moments, in the stillness of night, when distractions fade and all that remains is memory and regret. There is no escape from the mind when guilt becomes its master. And this is exactly where God begins His work. He allows them to remember over and over the choices they made, the things they said, the way they treated you. He does not let their conscience rest. Even if they try to bury the past, it resurrects itself. Images of you, your face, your kindness, your tears, appear in their thoughts uninvited. They feel your absence not just physically, but spiritually. The void you left behind becomes a constant reminder that something is missing. Something is broken, and they are the reason why. Guilt is God's tool. It strips away pride, it shatters self-deception. It forces the one who inflicted pain to confront the truth of their actions. They may try to distract themselves, diving into work, relationships, or pleasures, but guilt always returns. It's in the silence before sleep. It's in the conversations they replay in their mind. It's in the what-ifs that torment their thoughts. What if I had treated them better? What if I hadn't walked away? What if I had valued them when I had the chance? These questions offer no comfort, only torment. And this torment is not accidental. God allows it to continue, not because He delights in suffering, but because He desires repentance. He wants them to feel the full weight of their choices, to understand what it means to break someone's heart. Your tears were never wasted. Every moment you cried, every time you questioned your worth, God saw it all. And now the one who caused your pain carries it within themselves, unable to escape the mirror that guilt places before them. Sometimes they'll try to reach out, not to apologize, but to silence their own regret. They seek closure, not for your healing, but for their relief. Because regret is relentless, it doesn't let them rest. They may appear strong to the world, but inside they are breaking, tormented by the weight of what they did and the knowledge that they can never undo it. Guilt and regret are signs, God's signs, that He is not silent about your suffering. He is not ignoring your pain. He is working not with loud vengeance, but with quiet precision, turning their heart into a battleground where your pain becomes their sorrow, your cries become their regret. They carry now what they once gave freely to you, and there is no place to hide. There is a unique kind of hurt that comes not just from betrayal, but from watching those who hurt you seem to thrive after everything they did. After the lies, the manipulation, the cold indifference, they appear to move forward effortlessly, chasing dreams, building success, achieving goals, while you are left behind picking up the shattered pieces of your life. It feels unfair. It feels like the pain you endured didn't matter. But what you cannot see in the moment is that God does not allow injustice to stand forever. He may be silent for a time, but when He moves, His justice is unmistakable. One of the most telling signs that God is revealing your pain through their life is when their plans begin to fail. The very things they once boasted about, the dreams they chased, the goals they thought were within reach, begin to crumble. Slowly, painfully, and without explanation, their success begins to wither. Doors they expected to open remain shut. Opportunities they relied on vanish. Nothing they do seems to prosper, and they are left confused, frustrated, and defeated. This is no coincidence. This is divine intervention. God is showing them that you were not someone to be discarded. He is showing them that the pain they caused was not invisible. He is letting their plans fall apart not out of cruelty, but as a mirror of the damage they inflicted on your life. Just as they left your dreams broken, now they see their own dreams slip through their fingers. Just as they derailed your peace, now they experience chaos in their own pursuits. Think about it. When someone mistreats you, especially when you love them sincerely, they violate more than your heart. They violate God's order. He created relationships to be nurtured with love, respect, and care. When someone uses, manipulates, or abandons another person for selfish gain, they sow seeds of destruction. And in due time, God allows those seeds to bear fruit, not in your life, but in theirs. Suddenly, their best-laid plans are met with obstacles they can't understand. What used to come easily now feels impossible. People they once relied on turn away. Resources dry up. Confidence fades. And no matter how hard they try to regain control, nothing works. This is not just failure. It is divinely orchestrated failure. It is God's way of revealing that you cannot build a future on the broken pieces of someone else's heart. God disrupts their path to make a statement, not just to them but to you. He is showing you that He saw every wound, every sleepless night, every broken dream you endured because of them. And now, as their plans unraveled, you are witnessing the justice of heaven unfold before you. You no longer have to wonder if they will ever understand your pain. They are now living it, not in their heart, but in their reality. Their frustration grows. Their confusion deepens. They don't know why nothing works, why every effort ends in disappointment. But you do. It's the same confusion, the same disappointment you once felt because of their actions. Now God is turning the tables, not to destroy them, but to reveal the truth they refuse to see. Your suffering was not meaningless, and now their failure is the evidence that God fights for you. As their plans fall apart, they begin to see what they lost. Not just success, but the chance to have someone loyal and loving by their side. And as they face failure after failure, they remember you, the one they hurt, the one they dismissed, the one whose dreams they shattered. Now, their own dreams crumble, and there's no one left to blame but themselves. There is a deep agony in being hurt behind closed doors, to be wounded in secret, while the world believes the one who hurt you is kind, loving, and righteous, is a special kind of torment. They wore a mask, a perfect image crafted to deceive others, while they betrayed, disrespected, or harmed you in ways no one else saw. And while you carried the burden of their cruelty, they walked freely, unbothered, admired, even praised. You cried out for justice, but silence answered. And for a time you wondered if their mask would remain forever intact, if their true nature would remain forever hidden. But God does not allow falsehood to reign. He is a God of truth, and what is hidden cannot remain hidden forever. One of the clearest signs that God is revealing the pain they caused you is when their secrets come to light. The things they did in the dark, the lies, the betrayals, the manipulations, they start to rise to the surface. The mask begins to crack, and the truth they fought so hard to conceal begins to spill into the open. Not because of your efforts to expose them, but because God Himself pulls back the veil. There is no place for darkness to hide when God decides to shine His light. The carefully crafted persona they showed the world cannot withstand the weight of truth, and slowly, piece by piece, their true character is revealed. People start to see through the facade. Their actions become inconsistent with their words. Their lies begin to contradict themselves, and the same charm they once used to manipulate others now turns against them, becoming a trap of their own making. Have you ever witnessed someone's carefully built world begin to collapse, not because of an outside attack, but because of the truth they buried for so long? It starts with whispers, subtle realizations from those around them. People begin to question their integrity. Stories emerge, patterns are exposed, and suddenly the same crowd that once admired them begins to step back. Not because of rumors, but because God is uncovering the truth. This uncovering is not by chance. It is divinely orchestrated justice. God allowed their deception to go unchecked for a season, not to protect them, but to set the stage for a greater revelation. He allowed their lies to grow so that when the truth surfaced, it would be undeniable. And now, as their secrets unravel, you begin to see that your pain was not forgotten. It was the very catalyst for this divine exposure. There's something powerful about seeing the truth come out. It validates your suffering. It proves that you were not crazy, not overreacting, not weak. You were simply the first to experience the side of them that others are just now beginning to see. And God allows this unveiling to heal you. Not just from the hurt they caused, but from the confusion, the self-doubt, the questioning that came from watching them live freely while you suffered in silence. As their secrets come to light, they lose control. The narrative they tried to shape begins to crumble. Relationships they used to manipulate others begin to deteriorate. Trust is broken, not yours this time, but the trust others once had in them, and they are left exposed, vulnerable, unable to hide from the truth they once buried so easily. God does this not to shame you or to bring chaos, but to show you that truth prevails, that no matter how long it takes, no matter how powerful their deception seemed, justice is inevitable. Your pain was real, their actions were not hidden from heaven. And now the world begins to see what you endured alone, because God brought their secrets into the light. There's a unique kind of agony that only the wounded understand. The pain of being wronged deeply and deliberately, and then being denied even an apology. You gave your heart, your time, your loyalty to someone who turned around and hurt you, discarded you, or betrayed you as though you never mattered. And in the aftermath, they never looked back. No remorse, no regret, no acknowledgement of the suffering they caused. You waited, maybe not for them to beg, but for some sign that they understood the gravity of what they did. You waited for an apology, for closure, for peace, but instead you were met with silence. That silence can feel deafening. It can make you question your worth, your value, and whether the pain they caused even mattered. But God saw everything, and while you were suffering in their absence, something powerful was happening that you could not see. God was working in their heart, slowly, silently, but surely, and now, in a twist only divine justice can right, they are the ones seeking forgiveness, not just from the world, but from you. But here's the justice. When they seek it, they receive silence. When God turns the tables, He often allows the one who inflicted pain to now feel the weight of longing, the ache of wanting forgiveness, but finding it just out of reach. Just as they once ignored your pleas, dismissed your pain, and walked away from your brokenness, they now stand on the other side, desperate for forgiveness, desperate for release from their own torment, but finding no open door. They begin to realize what they've done, not just in their mind, but in their spirit. The weight of guilt and regret becomes unbearable, and the silence they once gave you now haunts them. They think of reaching out. They imagine what they would say. They rehearse apologies, hoping to ease their own suffering, but for the first time they are powerless. They cannot undo what they did. They cannot force you to listen. And the silence that now greets them becomes their judgment. This is not about cruelty or revenge. It's about God's justice. He allows them to experience what they gave to you. Your unanswered prayers, your unhealed wounds, your sleepless nights. They now carry that burden. They wake up thinking about you. They feel the void of your absence. And when they finally reach the point of needing to make things right, God allows silence to be their answer, because He is teaching them what it feels like to be unheard, to be dismissed, to carry pain with no closure. They start to understand that forgiveness is not just a word, it is a gift they once refused to offer you. And now, when they need it the most, God withholds it, not out of vengeance, but to reveal their own heart to them, to show them the weight of their actions, to bring them to a place of true humility, where they are not just sorry because of consequences, but because of the deep realization that they broke something precious, you. Have you ever wondered if they regret it, if they think of you, if they wish they could take it back? They do, but they carry that regret alone. You don't hear their cries, you don't see their desperation, but it exists in private, in silence, where God placed it. He does this to free you, to show you that you no longer need to chase closure or beg for recognition of your pain. He has turned the tables. The one who once turned away from you now feels the sting of being unheard. The silence that once suffocated you now suffocates them. And in that silence, they are left with themselves, with their guilt, their regret, and God's justice, speaking louder than any words ever could. There is a sorrow that words cannot fully describe, a pain that arises when someone close to you, someone you trusted and loved, deliberately brings destruction into your life. They stripped you of your peace, your dignity, your sense of security. They didn't just hurt you. They damaged parts of your soul that you never thought could be touched. And then they moved on, as if your suffering was meaningless, as if they had the right to break you and walk away untouched. For a time you watched them live freely, pursue their dreams and enjoy their life while you were left picking up the pieces. You questioned, does God not see? Will he not repay? But the hand of God is never still. He may be silent, but he is never absent. There is a divine order to justice, and it often comes not in loud declarations, but in quiet, undeniable acts of consequence. One of the clearest signs that God is revealing your pain through their life is when they experience unexplainable loss, a type of loss that is sudden, unexpected, and beyond human understanding. It is not a punishment for the sake of pain, but a divine reflection of what they inflicted upon you. You see, when someone steals your peace, God allows their peace to be stolen. When someone robs you of love, God allows love to slip through their hands. When someone causes you to lose opportunities, sleep, relationships, and joy, God begins to strip away the very things they hold dear, and it happens in such a way that they cannot comprehend it. Nothing they do seems to explain it. Nothing they try seems to stop it. Their life becomes marked by loss that doesn't make sense, loss that only heaven can explain. Have you ever noticed how people who once seemed invincible, those who mocked your suffering, who acted like nothing could touch them, suddenly begin to lose control of everything they thought was secure? Their relationships fall apart, their finances become unstable, their health falters, people they trusted betray them, opportunities vanish, and they are left confused, broken, and empty. This is not random. This is the justice of God. He allows their life to reflect the damage they caused. They didn't just hurt you, they caused you to lose something precious. Maybe it was your self-worth, your trust in others, your time, your emotional well-being. And now, God brings loss into their life, not to destroy them, but to open their eyes to the pain they once dismissed. He is showing them, through loss, what it feels like to have something stripped away without warning, without explanation, just as they once stripped you of your peace and joy. The most striking part of this is that they can't explain what's happening. They blame circumstances, people, even God, but deep inside they know. Something is not right. They feel it in their spirit. They are being called to account for the hurt they caused, and every loss they suffer becomes a reminder of the damage they did to you. They begin to fear the future because they realize they are no longer in control. The power they once held over you is gone, and now life is slipping through their hands, piece by piece. God uses unexplainable loss to humble the proud, to bring reflection to the careless, to awaken the conscience of those who lived without it. And as they stand in the ruins of what they once built, they remember you. They remember your tears, your pain, your presence, and now they feel what they made you feel, confused, broken, helpless. This is God's justice, not loud, not violent, but undeniable. It is the kind of justice that validates your suffering without you having to lift a hand. It is the kind of loss that brings them to a place of reckoning where they finally understand. The pain they caused was never forgotten, and now it has returned, not through vengeance, but through divine retribution. Loss without explanation becomes the clearest sign that heaven has spoken and your tears have been answered. Life has a way of testing us through people we once trusted, loved, and supported, who in return gave us betrayal, pain, and heartbreak. But what they often forget is this: you are not alone in your suffering. God sees every wound, hears every silent cry, and remembers every injustice. Nothing escapes his notice, and in his perfect timing, he reveals the pain they caused, not through vengeance, but through signs in their life that speak louder than any words ever could. You no longer have to wonder if they'll face the consequences. if they'll feel the weight of what they did. The signs are already unfolding. Their life reflects your pain. They are losing what they took for granted. Guilt is haunting them. Their plans are falling apart. Their secrets are being exposed. They seek forgiveness but find silence. And in the end, they are experiencing loss that only divine justice can explain. Let this be your peace. You do not have to fight for justice. God is fighting for you. He is your defender. He is your vindicator. What was done in secret, He brings into the light. What was stolen from you, He will repay. Your value was never diminished by their actions. In fact, God is using your pain to elevate you, to strengthen you, to set you apart. So walk forward, not with bitterness, but with peace. Not with revenge, but with confidence that God is handling it all. Let go of the burden to prove anything. The truth is already being revealed. The same God who allowed you to walk through that pain is now using it to write a story of justice, healing, and restoration. Thank you for watching. If this message spoke to your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that brings comfort, healing, and truth to those who need it most. Leave a comment below. Have you seen signs of justice in the lives of those who hurt you? I would love to hear your story. Until next time, stay strong, stay faithful, and remember, God never forgets the pain His children carry. He will reveal it, He will heal it, and He will restore you.